597,630. That's how many Chevy, GMC, and Cadillac trucks General Motors recalled because the engine can seize or put a connecting rod straight through the block at highway speed. And here's the part that should stop you cold. In January of 2026, federal investigators opened a brand new case into that same recall because trucks are still failing after the repair, not before. After. Let's be honest about the headline. Nobody's walking millions of cars back to a dealership and handing over the keys. What's happening is quieter and worse. Record recall volume, a record share of buyers upside down on their trade-in, record delinquencies on car loans. People aren't returning their new cars. They're trying to get out of them and finding the door locked. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which engines, transmissions, and model years are behind it. And the biggest number in this video isn't a repair bill. GM 6.2 liter L87 V8. Start with GM 6.2 liter V8. The L87 recall 25V-274 filed with NHTSA in April of 2025. 597,630 vehicles. Model years 2021 through 2024, Silverado 1500, Tahoe, Suburban, Sierra 1500, Yukon XL, Escalade, and Escalade ESV, basically the entire full-size lineup. What went wrong isn't exotic, and GM admitted both halves of it in its own filing. Machining debris, the stuff shop guys call glitter, left in the connecting rods and the crankshaft oil galleries, and crankshafts that came off the machine out of spec on dimension and surface finish. Put those together, the rod bearings get chewed, and the engine either locks solid or the rod exits through the side of the block. The first symptom is a knock. Sometimes there's none at all. Owners describe coming down an off-ramp and the truck simply going dead. GM estimated roughly 3% of that population, about 17,900 trucks, actually carries a bad engine. 3% of 600,000 is a lot of flatbeds. GM, the fix that didn't fix it. So what's the remedy? An inspection. If your engine passes, you get an oil change. Heavier oil, Mobil 10W40 instead of 0W20, plus a note in the owner's manual. That's it. If it fails, you get an engine. And GM has confirmed not every replacement is factory new. Some are remanufactured. Here's where it turns. NHTSA's preliminary evaluation started with 39 complaints. It grew into an engineering analysis covering roughly 286,000 more vehicles after over 1,100 bearing failure reports going back to 2019. Then, on January 16th, 2026, the agency opened recall query RQ26001 because it had 36 reports of trucks failing after the recall work was already done. To be fair to GM, and this matters if you're shopping, 2025 and 2026 trucks are not in this recall. GM says the machining problem was corrected in production. That model year line is the whole ballgame. GM 10-speed / rear wheel lockup. Those same trucks have a second problem, and this one's worse because it doesn't warn you first. Recall 24V797, late 2024, 461,839 vehicles. Diesel 2020 through 2022, Silverado and Sierra. 1,500 through 3,500 plus. Some 2021 Escalade, Tahoe, and Yukon with the 10-speed. A control valve inside the transmission wears, hydraulic pressure drops, and the rear wheels can momentarily lock up. Usually on a downshift out of 8th gear, at speed, in traffic. GM's remedy was software that monitors that valve and catches the wear roughly 10,000 miles before it can lock, then limits the truck to 5th gear. that isn't a repair, that's a countdown clock, and it isn't finished. In February of 2026, GM filed recall 26V085, 43,732 more units. This time 2022 gas Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, Yukon XL, and Escalade, same 10-speed, another software flash. Alongside it, recall 26V083, covering 1,055 vehicles that may have been repaired wrong the first time. Or 10R80, which brings us to Ford's version of that gearbox, because the 10-speed in your F-150 and the one in that Silverado came out of a joint program. Ford calls it the 10R80. Ford never recalled it for shifting. It issued service bulletins instead, a stack of them from 2018 through 2022 for harsh engagement, clunking, lunging, and hesitation. Owners describe a hard bang into gear at low speed, often well before 60,000 miles. It's in court. The class action O'Connor versus Ford has run since 2019, mostly 2017 to 2020 F-150S. In February of 2026, the judge denied Ford's attempt to throw out the Massachusetts consumer protection claims. No settlement. Still live. Now the money. Repair cost guys put a valve body at roughly $900 to $1,800, a full rebuild $2,800 to $4,500, a remanufactured unit installed $4,500 to $7,500, with dealer pricing 30 to 50% above that. On a 10-year-old F-150, that's the truck. And yes, the factory pan on that transmission is composite plastic, not steel. Ford hasn't recalled it. Plenty of shops swap it anyway when they're in there. Ford's record year, Ford's bigger 2025 story wasn't one part, it was volume. Ford issued roughly 152 recall campaigns in a single year, covering about 13 million vehicles. That obliterated the old record of 77 campaigns set by GM in 2014. The largest came in September, about 1.5 million US vehicles, because the rear view cameras could show an inverted or blank image while backing up. Here's the fairness beat. Ford recalling more doesn't mean Ford is building worse. In J.D. Power's 2026 initial quality study, Ford came in as the best mass-market brand in the industry at 152 problems per 100 vehicles. In 2023, it ranked 15th. A company that files defects aggressively is not the same animal as one that sits on them. Toyota V35, a twin-turbo V6. If your plan was just buy Toyota, we need to talk about the V35A, the 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6 in the Tundra, the Sequoia, and the Lexus LX and GX. Same failure family as GM's, which is the uncomfortable part. Machining debris left inside the engine during assembly, working into the #1 main bearing. Knocking, stalling, loss of power while driving. First recall May of 2024, about 102,000 vehicles, 2022 and 2023. Remedy, full engine replacement. Then in November of 2025, Toyota expanded it by roughly 127,000 more and admitted its own earlier manufacturing fix had left enough debris behind to still damage that bearing. A third wave added roughly 44,000 2024 Tundras. That's over 250,000 engines. Through October of 2025, Toyota had logged more than 2,600 warranty claims and has already replaced over 70,000 engines. Two pieces of genuine good news. The iForce Max Hybrid is not affected, and engines built from July 2024 onward with the redesigned bearing are excluded. Tundra. The other two recalls, that's not the only Tundra recall. In February of 2024, roughly 280,000 Tundras, Sequoias, and Lexus LX600s were recalled because the transmission might not fully disengage in neutral, meaning the vehicle can creep forward with nobody in it. Then, in May of 2025, recall 25V32200, about 443,000 Tundras, 2022 through 2025. because moisture gets into the reverse lamp housings and kills your backup lights. You're reversing in a dark lot, and the guy behind you gets no warning. And yet, Consumer Reports put Toyota back at number 1 for brand reliability in its 2026 rankings, and rated the 2026 Tundra dramatically improved. Toyota's answer to a bad engine. Tesla Cybertruck. Now the truck that turned depreciation into a spectator sport. The Cybertruck has taken 8 or 9 recalls in roughly its first 2 years. The one everybody remembers came in March of 2025. About 46,000 trucks, because the stainless trim panel along the roof rail was glued on and the glue lets go at speed. The financial side is worse than the hardware. Business Insider published trade-in screenshots showing Tesla quoting roughly $65,000 on a $100,000 truck. Call it 35% gone in year 1 against 15 to 20 for a normal premium truck. US Cybertruck sales fell from about 39,000 in 2024 to roughly 20,000 in 2025. Credit where it's earned. Consumer Reports moved Tesla up to 9th overall for 2026 and called it the most improved brand. Mercedes and BMW 48 volt. Spending 6 figures doesn't buy you out of this either. Mercedes recalled about 116,000 GLE and GLS models, 2019 through 2024, for loose 48-volt ground connection under the passenger seat, fire risk. A separate AMG recall, roughly 2,900 cars, covered a software overload in the integrated starter generator that could cause sudden loss of propulsion. No warning, BMW recalled over 100,000 V8 engined vehicles because the starter could overheat and catch fire. Software fix. Then in 2025, another campaign on 3, 4, and 5 series and X3 models for a loose starter generator connection that could stall the car. Buying rule: shopping a mild hybrid German car out of warranty, price the 48-volt battery first. $2,000 to $3,000, and it is not a driveway job. Diesel DEF systems. Diesel guys, your problem isn't a recall, and that's exactly why nobody's fixing it for free. Every modern diesel pickup runs an SCR system on diesel exhaust fluid. When an NOx sensor, a DEF injector, or the DEF pump fails, the truck doesn't just light the dash. It starts a countdown, and at the end of that countdown, you're capped at 5 miles an hour. Loaded on a job site doesn't matter. None of that is classified as a safety defect, so the bill is yours. Repair guides and owner reports put a DEF pump between $800 and $2,500. One documented dealer invoice came in at $1,797. A NOx sensor job about $1,650. One development worth watching. In 2026, the EPA proposed keeping the 2027 NOx limits while eliminating DEF-related speed derates on new heavy-duty engines. Proposed not law and not your half-ton. Right to repair. Here's the part that outlives every model year on this list. Can you even fix the thing? In 2020, Massachusetts voters passed right to repair with over 75% of the vote, adding telematics data to the law. The automakers' trade group sued to block it and litigated for years. At a hearing in February of 2026, that group finally conceded its members could comply as the court reads the law. Weeks later, the Attorney General declined mediation, still pending. Just 6 years on, federally, the Repair Act was reintroduced in 2025, and in 2026, a House committee advanced a version that would write the 2014 industry agreement into law. Sounds like a win. Read the fine print. That 2014 agreement specifically excluded telematics, which is exactly where the data lives now. You own the truck. Whether you own the data coming out of it is still an open legal question. Money trap. Now, the biggest number in this video, and it isn't a repair bill. In the fourth quarter of 2025, Edmunds found that 29.3% of trade-ins toward a new car were underwater. The average amount still owed on those upside-down trades hit an all-time record, $7,214. 27% of them owed over 10 grand. By the first quarter of 2026, that share climbed again to 30.9%. The people who rolled that negative equity into the next loan now pay an average of $916 a month, against a market average of $772. Meanwhile, Fitch's index of 60-day subprime auto delinquencies hit a record 6.9%. In May of 2021, that number was 2.58. Average transaction price set a record above $50,000 in December of 2025. And Kelley Blue Book projects the average 2026 vehicle holds only about 45% of its value after 5 years. That's the real reason people want out. The car broke and the loan didn't. Hey, so what's the pattern? Nearly every failure on this list traces to the same 3 things. First-year technology shipped before it was finished. Manufacturing tolerance is chased down to the last cent on engines built by the million. And software as the default remedy because a flash costs $12 and an engine costs $8,000. It's not all bad news. Industry-wide initial quality improved to 175 problems per 100 vehicles in 2026. That's the biggest year-over-year gain since 1997. So buy on rules, not feelings. Take the second or third year of a redesign, never the first. On any 2021 to 2024 GM 6.2, make the seller show you recall 25-274 closed on paper before you talk price. On a Tundra, ask which engine is in it and when it was built. Tell me in the comments which one of these you owned and what it actually cost you. And subscribe, because next we're covering the engines that still go 300,000 miles. You want that list before you buy, not after.